So welcome everybody to the third session, although on our agenda it's listed as 7th. When we were trying to put it back into our registration form, the registration form wouldn't let us put it as 3rd. So it turns out this will be our 7th session today. Susana Privett from the U.S. Census Bureau, who is our data dissemination specialist for New Mexico, is going to be presenting on how do you find data in Data.Census.gov. And specifically this afternoon, she's going to go into how to find tribal data, which is a very big part of data for us in New Mexico. We have 29 different tribes, which makes us very unique in the nation. And so we have a lot of need for tribal data. Also, the skills that you'll learn here will help you with advanced finding of data within Data.Census.gov. I think you'll find that these tips and tricks will help you find other data sets. Susana Privett is, she's been working with the Census Bureau as a data dissemination specialist for over 12 years. And she also lives down near Dallas, so she's in the state next door to us. And I think you're going to find what she has to present very good. With that, I will turn everything over to you, Susana, and let you go for it.
Well, great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. So I am going to go over a couple of things. I'm going to talk about the self-response rates, or at least show you where you can find those if you haven't seen those from 2020, talk a little bit about geography. And, honestly, I feel like I'm kind of singing to the choir here because I'm sure all of you probably know a lot about the data. But feel free to ask any questions at any time. So I apologize if I keep turning, but I have 3 monitors, and so I have things spread out, so bear with me. So then we'll move to Data.Census.gov, talk a little bit about that in general, and then we'll move into looking at some data, and of course right now from ACS, because obviously we don't have 2020 yet. So I'm looking forward to next year. Hopefully I'll see all of you again at some point, maybe on a webinar. Where we'll be discussing the actual data that's been disseminated. And then we'll talk about a couple of tables also. And then we have come across a lot of questions about historical data. And with Data.Census.gov, that data is not there. All the data that we published from July of last year moving forward will only be on Data.Census.gov. And so there will be some data that will be in other parts, and especially for the historical decennial censuses, I can show you where to find that data in case you want to go back and look at some of that. So I do cover
Susana, yeah. Speak up just a bit because there's a little bit, there's still a buzzing noise. Yeah, speak up just a little bit.
Okay. So I do cover Texas and Oklahoma from my home in Fort Worth, and then recently I'm now covering New Mexico. Now we're going through a lot of changes right now. A lot of our folks are coming back from 2020, so some of this may change in the future, so hopefully I'll be able to work with you, but if not, I can certainly let you know who becomes the person that covers New Mexico. So I can help you with data inquiries or any kind of questions related to the Census Bureau. And if you need a speaker or training workshops, kind of like what we're doing now, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'll be happy to help you with that. Here's my contact information if you want to take a picture of it or a screenshot, but I will bring it up again at the end. So first, and you're going to forgive me because I'm going to jump back and forth between the PowerPoint and going online. So first, we'll talk about the final reports from the tribal consultations and then go to the self-response rates map. I do have these links here. I can send them to you later. But just to let you know, I know sometimes these things seem to be buried in our site, and they may not be as easy to get to sometimes. So I certainly don't mind sending this to you. So I've got some of this already pulled up. So the first is the final report, um, and I've got it here, the front cover of this. So, of course, there were many consultations with different tribal nations that the Census Bureau met with for 2020. And so I've read some of these reports. They're very good. They're very detailed. If you happen to attend a consultation, then some of this may jog your memory because it pretty much has everyone who attended and everything that was discussed. So if you haven't looked at these, please do so because they're online now. And like I said, I wanted to show you a sort of a straight way to get there, but actually there's not. So I will have to give you the link at another time. Now, self-response rates, I don't know if any of you during the time or now that we're through counting have looked at any of these, but we do have self-response rates by tribal area. If you're not familiar with that, um, pretty much you can go to the 2020 site and search for response rates, and you should get this site that will come up under the 2020 logo. Um, and then as you scroll down, you'll see they have some drop down menus where you can make some different selections. If you don't, it does default to a total or an internet response. Then what areas that you're wanting to look at, I have it on all so that actually as I move my cursor over the screen, I get a pop-up of whichever area that is with the numbers. Now you can go through and select them individually if you prefer. You can also zoom in, zoom out. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, and of course there is a color class so that you can immediately see which numbers or which areas had some higher response rates than others. So if that is of some interest to you, again, this is actually a little easier than the consultation report. Again, you'd go to 2020 Census.gov and then just put in response or rates and it should come up. That's probably the fastest or the easiest way to do that. Now then, just want to mention geography. Again, I feel like I'm talking to the experts already. I'm sure most of you are familiar with our different levels of geography. So if not, here is a graphic of that with the American Indian areas and trust lands, off-reservation trust lands at the top, states, and then tribal designated statistical areas, and then below that, and these all fit within each other. If you're not familiar with the top being the larger area, and for example, tribal census tracts fit within that area. And then within tracts, you get tribal block groups or tribal subdivisions. And then the smallest area are census blocks. So those are the different levels of geography that we use to disseminate the data that we collect. And so if you are and as I tell everyone when we're looking at data, um, a lot of times more data is available at the higher level of geography. And then as you drill down, you may not get the detail. So what you could see at a block, you may not be able to see at a tract level, or there's more detail at the tract level. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your geography to find the data that you need. And so now let me move back over. So I just here on the geography tab wanted to show you, you go to Census.gov and then you go to topics and you go to geography, and it will take you to the page for the geography program, and then go to the guidance for geography users. And then here you'll see the hierarchies. The standard, which is the one for the non-AIAN areas. And then here is the one that I showed you on the slide. So if you want to take another look at that or need to refer to that at some time, it is available here. Are there any questions about the geography, or do we want to open that up at the end? I'm not sure, Susan.
You know, if they have questions, they can type them. I'll keep an eye on chat.
Okay, great. Great.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, just let me know if there's something I need to answer. So then going back to the PowerPoint, so now let's move into Data.Census.gov. Now, I'm just like you. I'm working with this new database. And so I was around when American Fact Finder came into existence. And I can remember some of the things that we went through with American Fact Finder. And it's just like any new app or tool or database, there'll be some issues and then there'll be some smooth sailing. And honestly, with Fact Finder, it took us a couple of years to get the road kind of smooth. And I think that's what's going to happen with Data.Census.gov. So all I can do is ask you to bear with us, be patient, and above anything else, please provide feedback, because without your feedback, this tool will not be what you really want it to be. And they need to know what the data users want and need. So please don't hesitate, good, bad, or whatever you want to say. Share your thoughts with headquarters, and I'll show you where to do that in a minute. So we came to the point of wanting to have a place where we could put the majority of our data. Of course, we have a lot of different branches at headquarters, the economic branch, population estimates, things like that. And so pretty much everyone had their own place or a page where they would disseminate the data. And so not everything was in Fact Finder. And so I'm sure some of you have seen some of our tools that were created by different areas. And so there just wasn't one place to get what you needed. And so, you know, I kind of look at this sometimes because I'm a shopper. I miss going out shopping, but you know, the way we were before was kind of a strip mall. You know what I mean? There's all these stores lined up, you know, everybody has their own door to get in and get out and whatever, but we're making it kind of like a mall. Now, these are just my analogies, but where you can actually go in and everything is there in one place. So you can shop around, get what you need. And so that's sort of the thought process behind Data.Census.gov. is that we want to move forward and we want to make it easier for the data user and give them a better experience. And I know for years it seemed like we were really busy collecting data and we might not have given a lot of thought to the end user, but that has changed and we are really thinking more about the data user and the end result for you. So we're going to take some tools away. We will keep a few tools, but everything will be consolidated for the most part. There will be some areas that will not be included in Data.Census.gov, but for the most part, everything moving forward that we release will go to Data.Census.gov. So again, I hope you'll bear with us with this. So now let me go to the site. So this is Data.Census.gov, and I'm sure you've already found that it's connected to Census.gov, but not really. It's a separate site unto itself. And so they're, again, trying to make it simpler, more streamlined, easier for you. And honestly, we're all on computers in this day and time, and everybody understands how things work. And so they try to put just as few places for you to get started so there's no confusion like we might have had in the past. So right away, you notice the simplicity of the site. And there is this box that you can type in whatever you're looking for. I want the population data for Chicago, Illinois, or, you know, I want to know how many people are over 65 in Dallas County. And you typing it just sort of in a Google-like way should get you some results. However, all of you are using data, I believe, much more frequently than maybe some of our users. And so I'm going to suggest that you do something else with Data.Census.gov. And I think for me, there's some comfort in it. It may not be for you, but if you will click on advanced search and just bypass that other area, this to me reminds me of Fact Finder. And maybe it's because I'm missing Fact Finder, I don't know, but it sort of reminds me with the filters on the left, and then you're clicking, and then you're getting all the choices. So for those of you that have already used Data.Census.gov, you may understand what I'm saying. Now, this is not to say that up here at the top, there's a blank right under the advanced search where you can still type in if there is a table that you use all the time, or you have some kind of information that you want to add, you certainly can do that. But I like to start with the filters and go across and add what I need. I feel that gives me more control for my results. And that's really why I prefer it this way. But you try it either way you want to and see how you like it. So for example, I wanted to show some information, some profiles for the American Indian and Alaska Native. And they're here, they're listed here. They're not under topics or geography, but they are listed under surveys because this comes from the American Community Survey. So I've clicked on surveys and this column pops up. And here I see what I'm looking for is some profiles. And so I'm just going to check that. Now at the bottom, this is different. In Fact Finder, we have sort of a shopping basket in the top left corner. Now, whatever you're adding, make sure you see it at the bottom, because just like fact finder, if it's something you want to search for, it better be in that bottom row. Now, I do want to mention something here while it's kind of in the way. Down here in the bottom left corner is a feedback button. This is where I'm telling you, or anywhere you see this on the site, that you should click on it and give us feedback about what you think, how you think it should work, what data you want to see, anything that you can think of. This is where you would go to give that feedback. But for now, I'm just going to X out of that little tab so that you can see the words here, selected filters. So you can see that makes a little more sense why it's coming down here. So now I've selected what I want to see, and now I need to select my geography. So I'm going to click on the geography tab while I'm still in the same place. And then here, I had started to type Navajo for an example. And so it still remembered that. I did that earlier. And so you can start typing up to 3 letters and it will start to set up a list of choices. And then you just check whichever choice you want. So I checked Navajo Nation, and that is here at the bottom of the screen as well. Now, if I want to add some other information, you can still go back to this first filters column. Let's say it wasn't profiles, I was doing something else, and I decided I wanted to narrow down the year, the vintage of the data. I could still come back and select that before I move forward. But for now, for an example, let me just go forward with these 2 items. Now I go over to the bottom right corner and I'm going to click search. Now, again, this is different from Fact Finder, where you used to just have a list of tables and numbers. Now it's based on whatever you've put in that bottom search line. It's going to give you everything it thinks you might be interested in. And it lines up the information by sort of a priority of what it thinks might be fitting what you need before other things. So that's kind of why this is showing up this way. Now, it'll always tell you a sample of the tables, and then over to the side, if there were 20 tables, this little highlighted box that says view all tables, kind of in a teal color, would say 20, and you could actually click on that and see more of the tables. You can also scroll down. They've really been working hard on the maps related to the data, and they're much better than they were before, personally speaking, and I think you'll find that as well. And then pages. Now this section here, most people aren't really sure what this is all about. However, I really like this, and the reason is because I do presentations, I do PowerPoints, and sometimes I need a little bit more information about a topic that I'm talking about. And pages can be articles that we've produced, something new that was released, just a lot of information that some of it might be helpful for you for whatever you're researching, or if you're putting something together to present, you may find some other information under pages. And so that's why that's there. That's been kind of confusing to some data users. They're not sure what that means. But if you're writing a grant or something like that, sometimes you get writer's block. You can't think how to describe anything anymore. You may find something like that here. So just keep that in mind. This is really a good part of this tool. So I'm going to go back up to the top. So I was looking for a profile, but here it also suggests something else. And this is from again, the American Community Survey 5-year estimates. So if you're not sure or you've not seen this before, check it out, because they've even put it in a box, which kind of indicates, hey, pay attention. We really think this could be what you want. So let's just click on it before we look at anything else. And so this, again, the whole layout is much different. With Data.Census.gov, that was always kind of in a table setting. This is more with cells. So really, if you decide to download, for example, to Excel, it keeps the look that you actually are seeing here. So whereas with Fact Finder, it was a table, there was a certain look to it, and then you would download it, and obviously then it had the Excel format. So this, I think, is also a great idea, because then it does look like what you were looking at on the screen. So it gives you the name of the table, the source, and then the table ID or the table number. And I always suggest that if you think you're going to look at a table more than one time, you should write down the table number, because listen, we're not known for our names. They're confusing. Sometimes you pull one up and you think that's got to be it, and it doesn't have what you think it has in it. And I know, because I do that myself. So make note of the table number and what that means to you. And when you come back, then you can just put that in the search box, and that'll be a shortcut for you. Now, across the top, if you want to, some tables will have other vintages available that you can click on this drop-down menu, and it will show you other years, and then you don't have to change anything. Just select another year to look at or compare, whatever you're needing to do. And that can be done very easily. Also, customized table. This is a little different also from Fact Finder. Let me click on that. So before, we had all of this right above the tables when you were in Fact Finder. Some of you remember that. And so all of this was listed there. So now, if you're not interested in changing anything, or you just wanted to look at a number and get out, then obviously you don't have to click on the customize button at all. But if you're wanting to print, or maybe you decided now that you've pulled it up, gosh, there's several other geographies that I want to look at too. Well, you can always do that from here. So right here where it says 1 geo, that's because I only selected the Navajo Nation in this case. If I was looking at several tribal nations, or if I was looking at cities and I wanted to look at more cities or compare cities, here is where I would go, and it takes me right back to the area where the filters are, and then I can add whatever other geographies I want to add to that. The same thing with years, just like in the filter page, topics, all of this is exactly what was on the filter page that we looked at before. Survey, if this is from the American Community Survey, but if I wanted to try to pull up a different source, I could do that here. Margin of error, if I click on that, let's say you have quite a bit of information and you're really just concentrating on numbers or percentages, you can hide the margin of error so that you can kind of look at everything a little clearer. So you can do that. You can transpose here. Restore, you're wanting to go back to where you were. Download, and print. So we had some issues, and some of you may have experienced that with printing. And we still are having some issues with printing. It's not where we want it to be, and we are working on that. So I was suggesting to data users that you download into Excel and then print from Excel. And I still sort of think that's a good idea. That way, you can keep a copy of the table for future use or whatever the case may be. However, if you do go to print at this time, you'll get this little pop-up box that says it's only going to include the first page of data. So if you have a long table or a lot of information, I just want you to make sure you realize that. And it's suggesting that you export to Excel. So it won't be like this forever. And as I said, we're having our little growing pains and our little learning to walk before we can run situation. So that's what this is about. So again, I personally still suggest to you for now to go ahead and download the table and print from Excel. And that way you can include everything or take out whatever you need before you actually print it. Any questions so far on this? No?
We're good so far.
Okay. All right, let me take a look at my notes and make sure I haven't forgotten something here. Okay, no, I'm good. All right, so now another tip or hint that I can give you. It's better now, but we still have some glitches when you want to go back to where you were. So I just want to tell you that if you haven't already experienced that, that could happen. Also, I'm not using Chrome, I'm using Firefox, but Chrome is the preferred browser for Data.Census.gov. So another thing you might want to keep in mind. So they added these hyperlinks to kind of go back. So again, I've been using them and everything's been fine, but one of my coworkers one day said they were having issues with that. So I just want you to know that up front, that may happen. So we can go back to search, and that takes us all the way back out. It doesn't take you to the filters page. Tables takes you back to that page, but I'm stepping out so we can kind of do this again. So again, I'm going to go into advanced search, but before I do that, on the rest of this main page, there's where you can view tables. There's a lot of good information here for maps, visualizations, if you're needing business data. And then to view profiles, we have a lot of great city profiles. There's a link for some microdata, and then the FAQs. And I have used those myself, and they have helped me in getting through some of the things that I come across when I've been using this particular database. So going back to advanced search, so it is remembering whatever you had unless you clear it. So you see that what I had selected before is still here. So let me take out my selection there. And let's see here. Let me go back to surveys. I want to show you one other listed here under the 5-year estimates for ACS. These are the detail tables. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to my geography. And let me just.
And I just want to point out, because what you did was really tricky there, Susie, is you did the detailed tables for tribal areas.
So
you did detailed tables for tribal areas, which is different than just detailed tables, which would get you all geographies.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it would. Absolutely. Yes. But
That's a
that is
sneaky
going
trick.
through, and that is going through the survey tab. Um, so I kind of wanted to show this in case somebody had not seen that or figured that out or done that yet. But you're right, this, yeah, it is a little different. So I'm just going to select one geography and I'm going to hit search. So now this gives me sort of a different looking result. So here it's just showing me tables, and then it starts listing again by the order that it thinks based on what you selected that might be what you're looking for. It also takes into account what most people on our site are looking for. So it kind of puts them in that order. So I'm scrolling down. Now you see here, it says view all tables 265. So then that means there's plenty of more where this came from, many more tables that you can select and view. Again, scroll down a little further, it tells me that there's 265 maps, 265 maps. So basically, that's saying there's a map for each one of the tables. Now, granted, some of the maps, based on whatever the table is about, will not be very detailed. It just depends on what the data is in the table. So some will have a lot more variety on the map than others. I just want you to keep that in mind. Okay, so it starts off with just general population. Let's see, place of birth. Let me go into just population for now. Okay, so I had one geography and population, as simple as it can possibly be. So here is the total, and this is from the American Community Survey from the 5-year estimates here. Again, if there were a lot of selections of different vintages, here in this case we don't, it's just 2010 or 2015 because these are released every 5 years. So here is your results. Then here on the left side, you have that same list of tables that we had on the other page. And as you scroll down, it doesn't show the complete list. You will have to click on load more to get more tables to show up. And you'll just have to keep doing that. That's kind of a limitation. I wish they would change that and you could just keep scrolling. Maybe they will later. Or maybe one of you could suggest that. So here you see other tables. These are all B tables, so they're detailed topic tables. So we can just continue to scroll down, click on more. I was trying to find one here. Let me check family type by presence and age. So this particular table has married, couple, family. And again, this is still for the same geography that I selected. Other family, and then female householder and male householder with no spouse present.
And just a note, Susie, just because you've got it there, because we're working with tribal data, note the margin of error. In those cases, you occasionally see a margin of error that looks bigger than the actual observed value. Or the same as the observed value. So you got to be careful looking at the tribal data.
Yes, I know sometimes when I'm looking at these smaller areas, I do hide the margin of error because I do start looking across. I go, oh, wait a minute, that was the margin of error. It wasn't the actual number. So yes, good point. Yes, absolutely. But again, and that is, I know you know, looking at data, that happens with smaller areas, unfortunately. But once we move on, it'll hopefully the 2020 data. I'm really excited and can't wait to see what those results are going to be. It seems like I've been through 3 decennials now, and gosh, it seems like it goes fast, but yet it seems like it goes slow. Okay, uh, let's see, sex by educational attainment. So you see all these tables, you've seen them before, you might have worked with them. So again, I could have selected 3 or 4 geographies, and again, you would just have to scroll across the bottom or up and down to see them all. But really, to me, this, like I said, using advanced search to start with makes me feel like I have a little more control on what I'm doing, and maybe being able to zoom in a little more than maybe just asking in general for something. And not that you can't get to some of these tables that way, you could. But for those of us that work with data a lot, I think you're wanting to get in and get what you're looking for. And so I think that really advanced search is probably better if you're a major data user for you. Okay. So any questions on this so far?
Not on this, but one thing that's kind of critical for a lot of us data user, and especially with the Navajo Nation, is we need to pull the Navajo Nation, just the New Mexico part. Is there a way to just pull tribal areas within New Mexico?
Well, there's, you'd have to go to a lower level of geography. Let's see.
So I actually have a sneaky way to do this, and so I may be leading the question a little bit. If you go to the advanced search,
okay,
and I'll let you drive, and I'll show you how I cheat this.
Hopefully I can get us there.
I just click, go back to the census, reset it by clicking the census icon. There you go. And on the geography there where it says show summary level, turn that show summary level on.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. Now go down until you see summary level 280. And you'll know as you go through, there's a lot of different summary levels here, but I want the 280 because the 280 is tribal areas within a state. And there's a lot of different ways to pull tribal data, but see the 280 there?
Yeah.
And now you're going to select New Mexico. And right there, those are all the tribal areas within New Mexico. And if you scroll down, it'll show you Navajo Nation, I believe, New Mexico part. So this is one way to get at that, but you could see if you select all tribal areas, you get all tribal areas within New Mexico. And I know that that is critical for a lot of my data people here.
Yes. In fact, the other day I did this for one of the other areas. I don't remember which one now, but yes. So, well, let's look at that. Hold on just a second here. What topic should we look at? Just populations or families? Let's see. Okay, household type, population under 18. I was looking at the median ages for a lot of these areas. These are some young areas age-wise, really young.
And there's kind of a reason for that. A lot of times the children are raised by grandma, grandpa, or aunt or uncle on tribal lands.
Right.
And then they go to school there, but their parents work in in Albuquerque or in a metropolitan area. And so their parents are counted in that metropolitan area, and their kids are counted with grandma, grandpa, or a family member on the tribal lands. And so you actually see that they're very young populations because of that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let me see, something else. Oh, okay. So let me go back. And I don't want to jinx it because sometimes I say something and then it hiccups when I say it, so I won't say anything right now. So then let's see here. Let me find another geography. So let me just pick a couple here. And then I'm just going to do search without picking any topics. These are just the geographies. So again, this is because you didn't pick anything and it's thinking, well, you probably want to know what is probably asked the most besides population is age. And then it would be race or ethnicity after that, the data that people are looking for when they call or they go online. So that's why these are sort of showing up the way they are. Now, let me click on view all tables. And so it will default to whatever table is at the top of the list. And then you'll still, this is a kind of a little thing that bothers me, which is why I'm showing it to you. I don't like this because I'd rather have all the tables shown on the main page. But so if you do click on that, it's still going to open it up into this window. And then you're still going to have to scroll down and continue to load more tables, unfortunately. So if you don't select a topic, you'll be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, unless you go back and let's say I designate a table number. So let's go with DP02. Let's see if that will. It did not pull it up. Darn it. Let me go a different way here. What I was doing earlier was working in the past and it's not working now. So I don't know why. Okay, there's more than one way to do this. Let's try this. Okay. Nope, it's still not giving me what I want. I knew if I thought about something, it was going to give me a hiccup. Let me go back. Bear with me just a second here. Okay, it's not going to work for me. I don't know why. So as you can see, I have frustrations as well because it was working before and I'm not sure why it's not working now. Okay. So do we have any questions so far?
So which piece were you trying to pull up there?
Well, before you could just put in your table number and your geographies and click search in the beginning when we first had this. And it was working up until, I don't know, I can't remember the last time I did it, but
you know what I found is I have to go back to the front page and clear everything and try it again. That's my workaround.
well, that's my workaround too. I start over 10 times before it's all over with. Okay. Any other questions before I?
I'm checking to see if there's anything else in the chat. I'm not seeing anything else at the moment.
Okay.
But, you know, we're such a small group. There's only 40 participants on this afternoon. So if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask.
Yeah, that would be great. No problem with that. Okay, so let me clear this. So now I'm just going to, so we've looked at topics, we've looked at geography, years, the list of years, and that also changes based on the geography and the topics or the surveys that you select. Then the list of surveys, we saw this earlier. It starts out with ACS and then it goes into some of the other surveys, economic and so forth, all the way through. So that's a pretty long list. And then the codes, again, if you're looking for business data and you already know the codes that you're working with, you can go in here and select that and start your search from that, adding geography or the topics. So that's kind of the simple part of this that I was going to talk about. I didn't really want to go into too much detail. I was afraid that I would end up having a lot of technical problems, to be quite honest with you, at this time of day. But I did want to show you about past censuses before I forget. So I already have a tab, but I do have, as I said before, this is not easy to find on our site, and I've actually bookmarked it because it gets pushed around in places on our site and then you're not sure where it is. But go back here. But I already have it in a tab, and this is the link that I was using. So this is organized a little differently than what it used to be, but I'm glad they've kind of cleaned it up a little bit. So now there's a general link at the beginning for whatever year that you're looking for. And then when you click on that, it will give you whatever the information is. In this case, it includes briefs and other summaries, but in some of the years you won't have this as a choice. It'll only be PDFs or Excels, or in some cases just Excels sheets. So depending on what year you're selecting, let me go back and go further back here. Let's see, 1970. So here for the 1970 census, and again, you know, we have not done the census the same as far as we've had questions that we've asked the same for many decades, but as far as we haven't kept the same formats and the way we have disseminated the data has been different also. So as you go further back in history, you'll see less and less. Of course, for the 2010, the most recent, we have a lot of information. But as you go further back, the amount of information that you have and the detail is not as great. So that's something to keep in mind also.
And I'll just speak up because I work with a lot of researchers, who are also looking for this data.
Everybody is, and you cannot find it. And it's very aggravating for everybody because you need to look at this at times and you can't. And it does go all the way down to 1790. And then there are other reports listed here too. So please, again, I will share that link with all of you. So it does exist, it's just buried, and I apologize for that. And that was actually everything that I was going to show you today, because I wasn't sure if anybody had their own tips or tricks that they've discovered, or they've been having some issues that you wanted to talk about. I'm open, so.
So let's see. I don't see anybody asking any more questions, but I'm certainly going to talk a little bit, I think, because, you know, tribal areas are so complex. A lot of the chapter houses are really kind of listed as CDPs, which are the census designated place. And I think even on the Navajo Nation, there's only one chapter house that's not listed, and that's on the Arizona side. So I think we're good there. So if you're looking for tribal areas, oftentimes if you look at the CDP, you get good data too. Just for those of you who are working on that. So do we have any other questions here? We have a few minutes. I think we said we would go to 4:45, but we don't have to go to 4:45. Because I know some of you have been with me since 10 this morning. Well, if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the first day of this year's annual Data Users Conference is in the books. Tomorrow morning we start with, I believe, Andy Haight, and after Andy Haight in the morning, we'll have Susana present again from 1:30 to 2:45, and we're going to do some more Data.Census.gov questions. So if you guys end up playing around with the data tonight and are having a hard time, write down your questions and bring them to tomorrow afternoon's session, and we'll see what we can do. Also, we will be posting we are recording all of these, and we'll post them to our website after the conference is over, and we'll grab what PowerPoints and stuff and make sure we post those. And because I actually have that, how do I get all the tribal areas in my state geography written down actually in a Word document, I'll post that too to share, because I know
it's good.
Yeah, well, I know people need it.
Absolutely. I wish I'd thought to do that. Yes.
So I want to thank all of you for attending, and thank you, Susie, for presenting. We appreciate it.
No problem. I love it. Well, everybody have a nice afternoon.
We'll just turn you all 15 minutes early and let you enjoy. And like I said, if you have any questions or any difficulties or need other things, just let us know. I think there's a hand there. Go ahead, Jamie. Why don't you unmute and ask your question?
Hi, just regarding the 2010 data, I assume for 2020 there won't be chapter level data. Is that correct? Because I don't think they collected that.
I don't believe they did either, but I'd have to double check that.
Okay.
You know, that's a good question, and let's write that down, and we'll do a follow-up on that, Jamie. That's an excellent question.
Thanks so much.